Well, let's bring in the General Secretary of the Fire Brigades Union, should we, Matt Wrack. Hello to you, Mr. Wrack. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning.
Good morning,
what might your members vote to strike over? What's the problem?
Well, we've had 12 years pay. It's not just this year. It's that since 2010, we've been asked to pay the price for problems that we didn't create. So year on year, sometimes slightly above inflation, but generally below inflation. And it's left people in our service some £4,000 a year as a minimum worse off than if their pay had kept pace with inflation. That's staggering. And, imagine the difference on someone's living standards and ability to pay the bills if they were £4,000 a year better off. And then this year, we have the worst single pay cut being proposed, with the impacts on our members being something like 6% in a single year. So our firefighters and our members in emergency fire controls have worked throughout the pandemic. We kept the fire service going. We also took on additional roles during that period. And our reward is to be told to tighten our belts and to struggle on. And our members are saying that that's not good enough. And therefore, sadly, we are balloting for a strike.
You've been offered 5%. Why is that not enough?
Because 11% is the rate of inflation currently, so that's a 6% pay cut. Why should workers pay the price for problems we didn't cause? Why should firefighters and other public sector workers, and workers anywhere indeed, be told to take a pay cut? What we're being offered is actually a pay cut, and I don't see how anyone justifies cutting pay.
Because the country can't afford it at the moment?
Well, that's nonsense, isn't it? Because some people have done very, very well. There are people who've made millions and millions in terms of COVID contracts. You look at the profits of big business. You look at the very wealthy in society. The government could afford to find £43 billion just a few short weeks ago in handouts to the richest people in society, where they tell workers that we've got to tighten our belts. And we've got people, as your introduction said, now increasingly unable to pay their bills. Firefighters, professionals delivering an essential service being forced to food banks, which has been admitted by our employers and by chief officers. I don't know how you justify that. How does anyone try to justify that situation?
How worried are you about the consequences for the public if you do strike?
Well, obviously, we're very worried. It's not a position anybody wants to be in. But equally, you can't go on year being told to tighten your belts and that actually something will improve somewhere down the line, and it never does improve. So eventually you have to take some action, and that's what our members are now deciding. Our members have voted democratically to reject the pay offer that they were made. We're now taking the next stage, which is to ballot them on industrial action. That's a very sad thing to do. None of our members want to be in that position, but equally, they've got the problem of how do you pay the bills? How do you pay the rent, the mortgage, the grocery bills, the energy bills at the end of the month?
How effective is the army when they are brought in when you go on strike?
Well, we haven't had the army brought into disputes for 20 years, so I have no idea what is in place. That has not been discussed with us. Fire and rescue services are required under the law to prepare alternative arrangements for emergency cover. Some of them have done that. I don't know what they have put in place. As I say, that's not our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of our members. That's the responsibility of the government. But actually, far better than talking about whether the army can provide cover would be to sit down and negotiate a settlement on pay. That would avoid strike action in the first place, and we would not be having to discuss that issue.
And do you feel that your members would only settle for an inflation-busting pay rise at this stage?
Well, that's a democratic decision of our members, and it's one on which I wouldn't even have a vote. Our members will decide that. But I had to ask, why should people be told to take a pay cut? It's simply unreasonable. You've got to pay. The bills aren't going down, mortgages are going up, rent's going up, grocery bills are going up, energy bills are going up. Why should your wages fall? It just does not make any sense. It's unfair, it's unjust. So I don't see why people should be told to accept that.
And what would you be advising your members?
Well, we're advising our members to vote yes for industrial action so that we can get in and talk to the government and to our employers. But the government hold the purse strings here, like they do in many of the other disputes that you've referred to. What lies behind this is underfunding of the fire service for 12 years and more, where they have slashed central government funding to what is an essential service. Our members go out every day of their lives to keep people safe, inspecting buildings, making sure that buildings and homes are safe, and obviously ultimately responding to 999 calls and putting their own personal safety on the line. And we believe they deserve a professional rate of pay for that, and that's not what's happening currently.
OK, it's good to talk to you this morning. Just a thought before I let you go. Last week I was talking to the Nurses Union. They said that their members were having to use food banks to get by week to week. What's the situation with your members?
Yeah, well, this is quite a shock to us as well. We have a chief fire officer actually went into one of the fire service magazines recently, announcing that he was aware of firefighters in Avon who were having to use food banks. We've had reports from our own union officials around the country of them having to sign to authorise firefighters to attend food banks. I think it's something that will be deeply shocking to many of our members and to the public, that people undertaking a professional job like this, working longer hours than average, a 42-hour week on shifts, putting their safety on the line, as I've said, can't manage to pay the bills on their wages and being forced, like many other people, to use food banks. It's quite a shocking state of affairs in the fire and rescue service. And I think that's reflected in the anger that people have and the frustration in the failure of our employers and the government to step in and resolve this issue. And we hope that that can still happen before this ballot finishes in January.
OK, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.